Hi everyone, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we're back again with something a little bit different today. We have a TOS novel. So not too long ago I finished up a very great TNG novel, number 13, The Eyes of the Beholders, by A.C. Crispen. It was one of the best Trek novels that I've read in a long time, and it got me really excited to look up some more of her work. So that's what I did, and it turns out I actually did have, right next to me on the shelf, Yesterday's Sun by A.C. Crispen. So, and this turned out to be a very special read, because I had a little bit of time on my hands, and was actually able just to sit down, and in the space of a day, just pour right through this sucker. And it was great! Wow! So, it's been a long time since I've had, read a book in a day time, but so let's jump right into Yesterday's Sun by A.C. Crispen, and this was published in 1983. Now, from the back. The Romulans attacked the planet Gateway, where Federation scientists are studying the Guardian of Forever, the mysterious portal to the past. The Enterprise must protect the Guardian, or destroy it, but Spock has already used the portal to journey to the past. On the planet Sarpedon, 5,000 years ago, Spock knew a beautiful, primitive woman. Now he has gone to meet his son. Bum bum bum. Anyway, the back hardly does it justice. As you can see, I took copious notes on this very fun book. And briefly, without going into spoilers, I will say that it is a fun little read that if you are a fan of the Kirk, Spock, and Bones dynamic, then you're going to like this. Because that's basically, you've got, 191 pages of that. So, a really good book. But we're really going to dive in and just go right into it. So, the whole story begins, the prologue, wonderfully with McCoy and Spock playing a game of chess. And in the midst of them playing the game of chess, they get one of the other officers there asks Spock for some information on this tape that they're looking at. And he looks at the tape, and it's actually a tape of something being played through the Guardian of Forever. And it's showing what looks like basically a picture of Mr. Spock. But it is coming from the planet Sarpedon, and it's coming from 5,000 years ago. So, just to kind of catch everybody up on what is the planet Sarpedon. So, you're going to have to go back and watch the TOS episode, I think, All Our Yesterdays, I believe is the title, where they go to Beta Niobe, which is a planet that is getting ready to, their sun is getting ready to go nova. So they go to this planet, and they find this facility just with this one guy on it, whose job is basically to send the planet's inhabitants back into the past, and that's how they escape, the death of their planet. So great episode. I won't get too much more into it, but in that episode, Spock and McCoy get sent back into the past to the planet Sarpedon 5,000 years ago in an ice age. And during that time, they meet Zarabeth, who's also trapped, and basically exiled into that period of time back then. Now, what happens to Spock during that is he begins to regress to his earlier Vulcan roots, his 5,000 years ago roots. So he's eating meat, and he's getting pretty amorous with Zarabeth, as you can see in the episode. But that's kind of all they really show. But you learn a little bit more in the book. So let's dive in. So, after Spock discovers the painting on the tape, he basically immediately knows what's going on. It could only possibly be one thing. That in the past, something happened with Zarabeth, and he's got to do something. So he immediately decides, well, there's only one way to go to the past. He's going to have to get access to the Guardian of Forever. So, luckily, the Enterprise is kind of due for some refits and stuff. So they're going to, they've got a perfect little space of time where Spock can go on this little side mission and see what's going on. Now, of course, getting into the meat of the story, Kirk immediately knows that something's up. Spock's trying to hide that there's something going on here, But he can tell that there's something going on, and he decides that, Spock, you're not going to do this alone, and basically blackmails Spock into letting him come along. So now there you go. You got your Kirk, you got your Spock, you got a good little plan going on. Now he's got to get permission to use the Guardian of Forever, so he does a visit to Pow on Vulcan, and asks permission to use the Guardian, and basically kind of frames it as it's like a family thing. It's very strong with Vulcans. They've got to take care of their family, So he does get permission from T'Pau to use the Guardian of Forever. It all kind of clicks together pretty easy, but that's great. It just keeps the story flowing right along. That's what we want. That's what we want to see. So basically, now back on the Enterprise, they're getting prepped for the mission, getting everything they need. They know they're going back 5,000 years, like an Arctic time. They got to be prepared for this. This is kind of a cool part of the story. They give you a little bit of side info on like recreation on the Enterprise, and there's like a group that's putting on a play. There's just kind of all these little inside glimpses into things, which is always fun. So they're getting ready to leave, and Spock and Kirk are on the turbo lift, and then of course you hear, "Hold that turbo lift," and you get a boot, boom, kicking into the turbo lift, and of course McCoy is not, he's not going to be left out of this mission. So he joins the mission himself, and surprisingly enough, Spock has even kind of anticipated this, basically saying that, I've come to anticipate his illogical actions. So he's prepared like an extra space, he's made sure that there's room for him to go on the Guardian of Forever. So there you go, you got your Kirk, Spock, and Bones, boom, ready to go. So they arrive at the planet Gateway, go to the Guardian of Forever, which is kind of watched over by this team of archaeologists who are pretty much dumbfounded that they have permission just to say, okay, yeah, just go back in time. It's fine. But there's really nothing they can do. Spock's extremely determined. I mean, basically just driven from the moment he saw the picture. I need to get back there, get back in time, and see what's going on there. So they don't spend much time there. They meet with the archaeologists. There's like a head archaeologist named Vargas. But pretty much immediately they get right into the Guardian, and the Guardian's able to deliver them where they need to be, but not exactly where they want to be. So they arrive back in the past, in this frozen wilderness, and they spend a few days, like they set up a camp, and they spend days kind of searching around the area, and they're looking for Tsar. No, I don't think I've said that before yet. Spock's got a son, and his name is Tsar. And that's who they're looking for. So they're looking for Tsar. They know he's out there somewhere, but he finds them first, and he, of course, attacks them, thinking that they're out to get him there. Spock manages to get him with a Vulcan nerve pinch, and they knock him out. They go to the cave, and he's not the little kid that they're looking for, and it turns out he is actually 25 years old. And they ask, well, what happened to Zara Beth? And it turns out that she died by falling into a crevasse some 7 years ago. So he's been alone for 7 years here on the planet, kind of taking care of things himself. So they do reveal at this point that he has some kind of advanced telepathy. So more than just, a Vulcan kind of sensing things and being able to mind meld, he has the ability to take his fear and his emotions and actually push that onto other people, which is something that he used when he was like tracking and stalking them before he attacked them. So something that maybe is native to the people of this planet, mixed with the Vulcan blood. So when they get there, basically they all kind of get into this cave and they're kind of introduced, and he knows immediately, that's who Spock is. He's been told all these stories growing up, about this Spock who was not who Spock really is. This was the Spock in that episode who was affected by being in the past. So it's not who he really is. So Tsar is expecting a whole different person, and Spock actually says, don't call me father. I'm not comfortable being called father by someone who's a stranger to me. So he's like kind of very cold and distant, but he does, he's determined to save him, and that's what he does. He gets back there and saves him. Also very nice, they do go and they don't want to leave Zara Beth there, so they do incinerate her body with the phasers, and Spock has a nice quote where he says, She was all the warmth in this world. So very nice, and I think Zara kind of liked that too. So they're able to get back to the Guardian of Forever. I think just basically by saying, hey, we're done. Can we come back? And then whoop, he zaps him back into the future. Very easy, nice and easy. And Zara beams up to the Enterprise. McCoy is doctor, but also apparently ship's barber. And he doctors Zara up, makes him look really nice. And I'm assuming kind of as he's pictured there on the book's cover. So as you can see, he kind of looks like a young Spock. And I actually thought it was kind of funny because the picture here that the artist, I thought, looked a lot like the Ethan Peck Spock. So, look, there's Ethan Peck. And look at that. It's a very, very close. So you got a young Czar is very close to an Ethan Peck Spock there. But anyway, moving on. So now we've got Czar living his life aboard the Enterprise. Spock has basically wanted to get him into strict instruction, get him learning about being a Vulcan, being aboard the Enterprise, and doing anything that he can to keep him busy with instruction. And he's got an incredible amount of crazy instruction. He's doing a little bit of training with Kirk, in the gym, so that's good. And then they give us a nice time skip. So we actually jump ahead 7 whole weeks here. So now you can kind of figure that he's fitting into life on the Enterprise pretty good. But Spock is still so cold and so distant. So it's at this time when Kirk spills the beans. All during this story, basically, Zar did not know that the Spock that was with his mother was affected by this past. So he was expecting a different person, but that's not who he really was, and that's not who he is. And there's just nothing that Spock can really do about that. That's just the way he is. But Zar takes it very badly. And at this point kind of turns on Spock, and it just kind of every opportunity is embarrassing him. And they actually there's a kind of a funny scene they have in the mess where they describe it as a meat-filled sandwich, where Zar goes up and gets himself a meat-filled sandwich and sits down in front of Spock and is just like munching on this meat-filled sandwich just to make him upset, I guess. But yeah, that's what you do, I guess, when you're mad at your dad. You eat a meat-filled sandwich in front of him. So now we've got to have a point in the story now where we've got to have something happen here. Whoop! We've got a distress call. The USS Lexington is under attack by 3 Romulans, and the Lexington's job currently is defending the planet Gateway. Bum, bum, bum. Here we go. So the fleet is on its way. It's going to arrive in about 15 hours, but there's more Romulans on the way as well. The Enterprise is the closest ship, and it's got to get over there. So the Enterprise comes in and are able to I think they destroy one of the Romulan vessels. They help the Lexington out, and it looks like a Romulan retreat and a Federation victory. But it's really not so. A clever Romulan ploy, as Romulans are wont to do. So they do beam some crew down to the planet just to kind of make sure everything's okay down there. And what they discover is things are not okay. Through a mental connection that Zar has with some friends on the planet, he discovers that the away team has been killed by Romulans. They actually have a force field down on the planet and also a portable cloaking field covering the whole area. So basically the Romulans know that there is something down there. So they got their 3 ships in there, they beamed their team down, and then did the fight as a distraction, and then retreated. And then their team on the planet killed the archaeologists, killed the away team, and has now set up shop. They've cloaked everything, and they're looking. They don't know what they're looking for, but they're looking for something. Now, Kirk has a plan. So Spock and Zar beam down. Zar can use his mental, acuity to feel them out and able to get in there, infiltrate, and they want to put a force field around the Guardian of Forever. And then that would protect the Romulans from using it and discovering what it is. And basically the thought here is, if the Romulans find out what it is and they use it, endgame. End of story. They'll go back in time, destroy the Federation, boom. So Kirk has determined that if they can't stop them on the planet, Scotty is to destroy them from space. So, whoa. High stakes here, for sure. So, Spock and Zar are on the planet right now. And they are down there and they are looking for a way to get around these Romulans. But there are so many Romulans. Basically, there's nothing they can do. They have to hide out. They end up hiding out. And 7 hours pass. And they cannot complete the mission. Mere minutes before basically like 0 hour. When they got to blow everything up or nothing. Kirk beams down. And they decide that they're going to try it again. Now this time when they try it again, and this is kind of like a last ditch effort. They're going to go in. And they pretty much know they're going to die. Or die trying. But before they go in, Spock knocks Zar out with a Vulcan neck pinch, which shows that he really does care for him, even more so than he cares for Kirk, because he was willing to take Kirk into the fray, but not take Zar in there as well. So they do decide they're going to go in there alone, Kirk and Spock, and see if they can figure this out. They do give you a little bit of shot. They give you a chapter up on the Enterprise. Scotty's holding off the Romulan fleet, doing a great job, but he can't do anything. Shield's got to stay up. But in command, Scotty always seems to do a great job. So he holds off the Romulans fairly well. Back on the planet, not going so well for Kirk and Spock. They are pretty well immediately captured. They're not able to do much. They get roughed up a little bit by the Romulans. Eventually, Zar does wake up and is able to make contact with Scotty, who's soundly beaten the Romulans in space. And they put together a rescue team. So Uhura beams down, and I love that Uhura was the leader of the away team to beam down and rescue. And Zar creates a distraction, and they're able to get in there, make the rescue, and take out all the Romulans and protect the Guardian of Forever. So, wow. Okay. So, now we're at the end. Kirk, Spock, and Bones are walking around kind of the battlefield there, and they find Zar. He's standing there in front of the Guardian of Forever. He's realized something of a paradox, and he tells them that he needs to return to his planet because he feels that it was him that actually helped the planet advance. It's kind of one of those paradoxes where, like, he went back in time to give his people knowledge that then he benefited from Zarabeth. So he decides that he has to step through the portal and go back in time. And Spock expresses just about as much love for him as he can express, I suppose. McCoy, I feel, really shined here as well throughout this whole book. Just in his empathy, his humanity. Really, really, really well-written part, I would say. So, he does step through the Guardian of Forever. So, final thoughts here. Wow. This was a really fun book. Yesterday's Sun by A.C. Crispen. Top notch. It's just a character story that follows Zar, Kirk, Spock, and Bones, and it doesn't slow down. It just keeps going from the prologue or the epilogue to the prologue. 1, 2, 3, all the chapters are great. Man, for me, I would say the real standouts in the book were probably the character of Zar. I think was really well written, and it was just interesting to see them go from this kind of a savage, raised and educated, but still a savage alone, to being someone on the Enterprise, trying to fit in with everybody. Again, Dr. McCoy's character, excellent, very well done. Really, the whole Kirk, Spock, and Bones dynamic, I think, in this book was just really well done. Okay, so final thoughts. Really great book. Really good news. It's got a sequel. That's right. So I'm excited to jump into this, and I will be doing that just as soon as I finish the Star Trek Voyager novel that I'm reading currently. So if you're looking for a fun TOS novel to read, Yesterday's Sun and then you got a trilogy, or you got a sequel there afterwards. Something fun to look forward to, too. Definitely give it a shot. As always, guys, thank you for watching. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you next time. Bye.